Today we're going to be doing a little bit of Home Buyer 101. If you're new to the channel, I'm a mortgage lender. My team's licensed in 50 states. We're one of the top purchase teams in America. So all we do all day is help home buyers across the country. Now, one of the things that I see a lot of is people don't really know what their real estate agent's job is. So today I'm going to be talking to you about, from what I see and my perspective, what I would expect my real estate agent to do as a buyer, okay? Okay, so first of all, what you guys need to know is that your real estate agent is your chief negotiator. That's where I think a lot of confusion is. Because of all these HGTV television shows where they have the real estate agent opening the door, Granite, look at those lights. The furniture comes with it. People assume that real estate agents are door openers. And look, the bad ones are. That's all they do. However, the good ones are your chief negotiators. Because that's the thing, guys. When you're buying a house, there's actually a lot of points of negotiation that need to happen. Let's talk about them. Number one, the purchase price of the house. Number two, how long your contingencies are. So contingencies are like, let's say that the contract's going to be for 30 days, right? You know, how long do you have to get an appraisal? You have to get an appraisal in XYZ. That's your first contingency, meaning you get to this little marker, you need to release it. You know, there are some agents where they'll just say, oh, you don't need contingencies. That is terrifying, right? It's their job to negotiate whether or not you get inspections, and if those inspections you can use to negotiate further. It's their job to negotiate if the seller's going to help you with closing costs. It's their job to negotiate their commission, right? Here's the thing, guys, as of August 2024, the buyer can now pay the commission. However, I have yet to meet a buyer that actually would like to. So it's the real estate agent's job when they're writing that contract to be negotiating for the seller to pay their commission, if that's what you would like, okay? There is a lot of negotiation. Let's say that you get your inspections back and there's problems with the house. Guess what? Once again, it's the real estate agent's job to negotiate with the seller. Are they going to give you a credit to fix what's wrong? Are they going to fix it prior to close? You know, are they just going to say ignore it? There are many points throughout the transaction when your real estate agent's job is to negotiate on your behalf, okay? I started with Negotiator because that is where I see the most frustration from buyers. What I'll hear is, well, wait a second, Jen, they haven't talked to me about the seller paying closing costs at all. They haven't talked to me about my contingencies. They didn't even talk to me about how long it takes to close a house. They haven't talked to me about anything, Jen. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you need a negotiator. Now look, I think there's a pretty easy way to find out if someone's a negotiator, personally. Whether you need closing costs or not, meaning having the seller help you with the closing cost, it's a simple statement. Hey, like I'd love to potentially work with you. You know, how do you feel about negotiating for the seller to pay your commission? Question number one. Now, if the agent says, oh, don't worry about that, I'll call the houses before and make sure the seller's willing to pay my commission. Forget it. No. So what? They're only going to show you the houses where the seller has already agreed to it. It's a negotiation. Them saying that tells me you are lazy. You don't want to negotiate. You want an easy paycheck. Okay? That's an easy question to ask. The correct answer to that is, hey, look, we'll look at everything and then we'll have to negotiate with the seller. Some may go for it, some may not. If the seller says they don't want to pay my commission, it's up to you at that point if you want to pay it or if we look at another house. But everything's a negotiation because it is, okay? The other thing is, you know, you can always say, I want the seller to pay my closing costs. It's really important to me. Here's the thing. There are some markets in the United States where getting the seller to pay your closing costs is like a 10% chance, okay? But that's not the bulk of the United States, especially right now. And what I'll see sometimes is I'll see a buyer will be like, they'll come back to me and they'll go, oh, Jen, the agent said I can never get closing costs, that sellers won't do that. And I'm like, you're in Dallas. Is that a joke? Like what? And then I look up the agent and the agent hasn't sold a house since 2022. So the last market that they looked at was a crazy market when it was hard to get the seller to pay closing costs because there were multiple offers. 2022 versus 2025 is a different market, you know, even if, so look, in a market like Dallas, if they said sellers won't do that, I would like hang up the phone fast because I see it every day, okay? But beyond that, even if it is a tough market, let's say it's New Jersey, right? New Jersey parts of, and it is loosening up a little bit. Let's clap, thank God. Yeah, thank you. You know, we have clients where they definitely need the seller to pay their closing costs. That's what I see the most of in the United States right now. Affordability is tough. You know, paying rent and saving up for closing costs is nearly impossible in many cases. And look, we work with real estate agents all the time where we're like, hey, they're going to need all the closing costs. This is what they say. Okay, you know, it's difficult, but we're going to go for it. We're going to try. We're going to go for it. And guess what happens? It may take a couple offers in those super tight markets, but ultimately they get it. Now look, have I talked to agents where they say, this is impossible? Yeah, and I've told my clients to not work with that agent. Look, nothing is impossible. It could be difficult. It might take time, you know, but assuming that all sellers are the same is always a bad assumption. Okay, so those are my two questions to really see if an agent's a negotiator. There are some agents that literally live to negotiate. I'm thinking of Sahar in Houston, Michelle in Dallas, Shelby and Doreen in South Carolina. Those ladies love to negotiate and they're lovely about it and they get their clients great deals. That is what you want, okay? So, real estate job number one, chief negotiator. Number two, their job is to help you find a house. The other big complaint that I hear from buyers is I don't even know what this agent's doing. I send them all the houses and then I have to chase them to actually go and see them. Okay, look, a proactive agent should be talking to you about what you're looking for and they should be coming up with some of the houses that you're looking at. Because we live in this era of, let's just be honest, we're all on those websites when you're home shopping, homes.com, realtor.com. I'm only saying those two because Zillow just got themselves into a heap of trouble. We're all on those websites 24 hours a day, okay? It's not realistic to think that a real estate agent is going to be as psycho-obsessed with your home search as you are. They're gonna be focusing on it, but you and I both know you're probably staying up. You know, I don't know, when I home shop, I'm looking until I can't even close my eyes. It's terrible. It's terrible. So I do think you're still gonna have some level of sending your agent houses, but your agent should be proactively looking as well. Now, the other thing I hear a lot of is, the agent set me up on a drip, but it's not showing me any houses, but I'm looking at all these houses. Why are they not showing me these? Too narrow of a search. So what agents do is they ask you, hey, what are you looking at? What do you want? And they put together the search. And then based on that search, you see the houses. But if you're online on any of these websites, you're looking at way more than what you told that agent you wanted. And I know this because I see it every day. I'll be like, okay, well, what did they not show you? And it's like 123 Apple Street, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, did you tell the agent you wanted a 3-bedroom? No, I told them I want a 4, but I would do a 3. Sounds like the agent set up the search for 4. You know, look, I think an agent should be proactive in having these conversations with you, but I do think that as a home buyer, because of the way tech is so, it's invasive, guys. Like, it's around us 24/7. I think you need to be having at least a weekly chat with your real estate agent about what you're looking at, right? Because then that can help them broaden the search. Now, a good agent will also be looking for stuff off market. And there's a lot of people that hate it when I say that, but it's true. It's true. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat you. You know, I've had many clients where they got a house in a competitive market because it was never on the market. That's right. You know, the agent may have had a prior client. You said you wanted a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. They started thinking about all the houses they sold in the last 20 years. They went, Betsy. I think Betsy said her granddaughter was moving to Arkansas and she was going to follow her. Let me call Betsy and see if she's thinking of selling. That is your dream agent, okay? Those are the agents I'm always looking for. The one who's going through a database in their head playing matchmaker, okay? That happens. And if an agent's like, well, we can only see what's on the market. Yeah, that's true. You can only see what's on the market, but if you're in an office with a bunch of top producers, listing agents, you know, if I was a buyer's agent, I'd be knocking on everyone's door, calling their cell phone. Hey, Becky, I've got a buyer looking for this. Do you have any potential sellers coming up doing this? Do you have anyone you've worked with that has this? You know, really working outside of just whatever MLS is feeding them. So that's something else I would look for. Now, it's important to note that the real estate agent's job, chief negotiator, helping you find the house, touring the house. Now, this is important. Sometimes people will say to me, Jen, I went through the house with the real estate agent, but they didn't point out some of the stuff that you showed us in the photos, and it was there. We pointed it out to them. In photos, like if I see ceilings that are dipping, sagging, if I see obvious moisture on the walls, I'm gonna ask my clients to look at that because I don't want my clients paying for a home inspection if they go there and it's like that and it's gonna make them uncomfortable, right? Like, look, if the walls have black mold, like let's just pass. And look, there are some real estate agents that go through with a fine-tooth comb and they're like, look at this, look at this, look at this. There's some agents that don't talk to you about any of that because they're not a licensed home inspector. Neither am I, right? You know, my advice is based off of what I've experienced as a homeowner. And I make that really clear to my clients, like get a home inspection, but just check these things out. See if you want to write that offer. It may or may not be a big deal. Agents, it can be trickier, right? Because if they start saying, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, but then there is a foundation issue, but they didn't know, they're not a foundation expert, a client could get mad at them and say, why didn't you point that out? They're not a licensed home inspector. So I think sometimes you get lucky and you have an agent that's already done a ton of renovations and been through heck. Try not to curse. But I don't think that's a realistic expectation across the board. And I do think that some agents shy away from that because it could get them into legal trouble because they're not a licensed home inspector, okay? A licensed home inspector is always what you're going to want. Now, let's say that the agents negotiated the contract. You're in contract, yay! Now what does your agent do? Generally, your agent's gonna be working with you to set up the inspections. Now, I always recommend that you review your own inspectors. You look for your own inspectors. Look at who the agent recommends, but read their reviews. Interview a couple. No one does this. Guys, I never did it. But after what I've seen, especially the last few years, the next house I buy, I'm going to be looking at reviews. I'm going to be interviewing the inspectors. And based on that, I'll be selecting one. So the agent helps line up the inspectors because they have to get access to the house, okay? Now look, some agents go to the inspections, okay? Like a couple of the agents I've worked with, they always went to the inspections. They went there, number one, to let the inspector in, number two, to supervise the inspector while they were there, and number three, so that if there was anything super important, they could let me know. You should go to your inspection as well. The most recent house I purchased, I did show up for the last 30 minutes. There were a couple things I was concerned about, so being able to walk the property with the inspector and have him tell me what's a big deal, what's not, what I need to pay for and fix immediately was super important, okay? So look, your real estate agent may not go to the inspections. They may just have the inspector go there and meet with the seller. In a perfect world, your real estate agent or one of their associates would meet with the inspector, okay? Beyond that, it's the real estate agent's job to make sure that everybody else is doing their job so that you close on time, okay? And look, there's some agents that really do this with a vengeance to the point of annoyingness on the lender side, because I'm like, we do our homework up front. Like my team is a finely oiled machine. They are a unit that knows what they're doing. And we'll have some agents where like every day, they're like, hey, what's the status? We're like, we emailed you yesterday. Just checking in again. Okay, they're trying to make sure that everything moves forward for their client. Your agent should check in on your lender at least once or twice. You know, with someone like me, we make it really clear, this is our process, this is where we're at, check our reviews. But if it's a big call center, guys, honestly, I would want my real estate agent following up. I would be following up too. And if you're having trouble getting a hold of your lender, tell your agent, because odds are your agent will ride that lender like a donkey until they call you back. So that's another thing that we see agents do. Is it their job to nag everyone? No, but you know, with what I see with great agents and their teams, do they stay on top of everyone in the party? Yes, yes. And then lastly, generally your real estate agent will be at your signing at closing. As a loan officer, I don't go to them. I used to go to them early in my career. I think I went to about 10, but it was ridiculous. There was no need for me to be there. I had already done my job. I'd already told my client everything. All they were doing was signing the documents that we'd already gone through them with them in a multiple times. For agents, this is their glory moment. This is when you get, in most states, the keys, right? We see the pictures, everyone's posing. I love my agent, house around your head, right? All the Instagram fun. Make sure if you do not want an agent posting your image, you tell them, because I do see a lot of agents post clients' pictures and I'm like, did you get permission for that? So make sure you tell them. But this is their crowning moment, okay? Now, one of the things that I saw on Reddit that I thought was interesting was first-time homebuyers were like, should my agent give me a gift? Guys, look, it's up to the agent whether or not they give you a gift, okay? Let's be real about that. There's some agents, and it depends on price point, where we've seen crazy things. I knew a real estate agent once who gave a client a golf cart. It was a $5 million house, guys, and the agent made a truckload of money. And look, there's no, yes, they need to give you a gift. No, they don't need to give you a gift. I don't care if they give me a gift. If they were a great negotiator, if they stood up for me, if they protected my wallet and my interests, because that's what a good agent does. I don't care about a bottle of wine. I don't care about a cheese board. I don't care about any of it. I just want the house at a good price and good terms. That's it, okay? Now look, if they give you something, great, but just remember, the most important thing a real estate agent can do is make the transaction seamless for you, be that person who's negotiating on your behalf, and be that person that's making sure that you getting from step A to keys is as stress-free as possible, which is tough in real estate, guys. It's tough. So I hope this video was helpful. Questions, comments, if you think I missed something, let me know. But I thought this was important because a lot of times clients think I negotiate the contract. I would kind of love to. Honestly, I know agents who are watching this are going to be like, oh, she's the worst. You know, look, we'll tell the agents how much you need in closing costs. We'll tell them what you can and can't do because we're the wallet. But ultimately, it's up to them to negotiate. And let me tell you guys, I've seen some real negotiators where I'm like, wow, you're impressive. Charm, grace, skill, killer deal for the buyer. I hope this video was helpful. If you want to get pre-approved for a mortgage, we fully underwrite every pre-approval. My team's in 50 states. We make the mortgage process as stress-free as possible. Reach out, 786-933-2077. Thanks for watching.